the place of the diaspora, the status of people in the diaspora, of the African diaspora, is intimately linked with what happens on the continent.
Benin government has voted through a law that would give African descendants nationality of Benin. This is incredible news because not a lot of African countries are doing this yet, but a few have already started. If the person that wants nationality for that country is a descendant of the ancestors, African ancestors that were taken due to a slave trade, they are going to be given nationality. According to reports, the Benin government stated that the slave trade had left deep wounds on Africa and the descendants of the deported people, and it wished to help reconnect these descendants with their origins. Millions of enslaved Africans were dispatched from the shores of West Africa, including from Benin's shores, following the adoption of a law on 30th July paving the way for recognition of Beninese nationality for Afro descendants. The government published the terms of the decree on 20th of November. According to the same report, people from Haiti, Brazil, and the Caribbean are showing interest in Benin. Hence, they are traveling more to Benin and they are seeing an uptick in tourism or visitation to the country, which tells you that some people, not everyone of course, some people are interested to find out about their roots, to go and look for ancestry and to be part of the African people. So even though Benin is not the first country to pass this law that will welcome African descendants and allow citizenship to be given and to welcome them home, Benin for sure is one of the top countries that have opened up their country, which is incredible. This is what we talk about. Like when we're saying come back home, you have to also facilitate, like the systems needs to change. You can't say come back home and you don't give out nationalities, passport, you don't give land, you don't make it easier for the people to come and join and be part of the community and society that is here. So well done, Benin. It's a great move.
Hello brothers and sisters, I hope you are all doing fine from wherever you're watching me from. Now, the government of Benin is inviting all African diaspora who wants to come back to Africa. Now, they are offering citizenship on arrival on anyone who wants to come and invest in Benin. So let's watch this video because the movement has started and we are going to see many African presidents calling out on African diaspora to come back to Africa. So let's watch the video, then have a quick discussion at the end of it. Thank you so much.
Today we are in the West African country of Ghana, the Gold Coast, the pride of Africa, the gateway to the continent and all the good things. And Ghana is making this video because there's something really, really positive that has happened in the country. So in one of the last presidential actions by President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo before the completion of his tenure and he left office, he made it visa-free for all Africans to travel to Ghana. Take a moment and let's sink in. That for the first time in the history of the Ghanaian Republic, all other Africans will be able to travel into Ghana, access Ghana on tourism, on travel, and just exploration for the first couple of months, visa-free. And I just want to read for you the kind of countries that Ghana joins. The Rwanda is visa-free, Benin is visa-free, the Gambia Republic is visa-free, and also Seychelles is visa-free. Kenya for a long time was visa-free under President Uhuru Kenyatta, but then President William Ruto came into power, and because of digitalization or whatever it is that administration is doing, now there's a requirement in the form that someone has to fill. There's an electronic visa or entry form that someone has to fill, and that takes away from the ease of access. I think it even dropped in the ease of access. So now Ghana joins these countries, and I'll tell you how it works in Rwanda. In Rwanda, if you're coming here, particularly if you're an African, the first 30 to 60 days, You're allowed access depending on what you're coming to do to the country, be it travel, be it business exploration, be it just sightseeing to see what the country has to offer. And this is really monumental, particularly for Ghana. And I'll tell you for a couple of reasons. One, for political reason. I think Ghana is one of those countries that is a beacon of hope and democracy in the African continent. It's such a peaceful country. It's relatively safe in comparison to many other African countries. And so it's really, really important that they make it easier for the other Africans to be able to travel to their country, because this is a place that is great to be, is great to see, is great to learn from, me, is great to interact with other people. The other thing is from the tourism front. Ghana is such a rich country in terms of people, in terms of culture, in terms of food, in terms of places that you can visit. It's a country I lived for about 2 years. And to be honest with you, I didn't even scratch the surface of that country. From the clothing, going to the market, looking at different fabrics that are in the country and the different meaning. It's just so colorful. It's so beautiful. From the food in the country is very diverse. Different communities have different types of food. For the Ghanaians who are watching, I went through this roller coaster of emotions where I would discover food and then it would become my favorite. So I tried jollof and it became my favorite. Then I tried wache. Then I was eating wache for close to a week every single day. Then I tried banku and tilapia, which became my favorite. Then I tried fufu and light soup. There's also contomre. So there are different types of food that someone can try there. There are different regions where someone can travel. You can go to the Volta region. You can go to Takora. The beaches are absolutely beautiful there. Accra and Cape Coast have a wealth of history about the country. The Cape Coast Castle is one of the places where during the slave trade, slaves were held there and then shipped across the Gulf of Guinea into the Atlantic Ocean, going abroad to work in plantations. So there's so much history in that country that you can learn and things that you can explore from a tourism front. But I also think that it's very important to begin breaking these barriers, because even just in terms of business, there are people who might want to come and explore your country. And sometimes visas become such a huge barrier because they're not the most streamlined thing on the African continent. It's as if when you're applying for a visa, there's so much paperwork that you have to fill, and you never know whether your visa will be accepted or whether it will be denied. And sometimes some of these opportunities you need to pop in and out. So it's really, really important. And then again, like I think there's this clip of this famous biker who's traveling across Africa on her bike, and she's documenting just how difficult it is, particularly when you're crossing through land borders, how difficult it is even for Africans to cross other borders. I think very many vloggers have done stories about traveling Africa by road, and it is so, so hard. There's so much bureaucracy at border points, which discourages many people. To be honest with you, air travel on the African continent is really, really expensive. We pay anywhere between $250, $300 to $600, $800 for flights that are what, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5, 6. They're not supposed to be that expensive. And so many people who travel then opt to use road transportation. And what then happens is, if you're using road, then you have to go through land borders. And that's where the circus begins. But if you ensure that it's border free and it's accessible, or rather it's visa free and it's accessible for many Africans, then people can just jump on buses, they can jump on trains, and they can start traveling across the African continent. And the other beauty is it will now force African governments to start working on interconnected infrastructure, because the continent is very fragmented, honestly. How do you go from Cairo to Cape Coast? How do you go from the coast of Mombasa to the coast of say Ghana, or to the shores of Nigeria? How do you do that? Even just in East Africa, where I am based, we don't have a railway line that connects all of us. If you're coming from Kenya and going by bus, you can go by bus to Uganda. It's about 12 hours. If you're coming to Rwanda, it's a whole other issue. It's like 23 hours on the road, which is not fun. So this will push African leaders to start thinking of interconnected infrastructure, because once those barriers fall and Africans can travel, people can move, goods can move, then you need to find a way of ensuring that they move with ease and affordability. So that's one thing that really excites me. But this is such a great step in the right direction, and we're hoping to see many more African countries do it. I think there's always that fear that if you open up your country, there'll be an influx of people, there'll be crime. But I think Rwanda has shown us that with proper screening, proper mechanisms, if you weed out corruption, you can have the right kind of people visit your country, and it will be to your benefit. Because to be honest, sometimes the biggest public relation campaign that you can ever do is by customer.
My home, my heart, made history granting 524 African American and Caribbean people citizenship on a campaign they ran called Come Home. Take a look at some of the people that were granted citizenship, and then some people who just have wonderful things to say about their experience in Ghana.
I'm officially a Ghanaian citizen.
How do you feel being a Ghanaian?
A Ghanaian princess. Honestly, okay, so it was 3 days ago we got sworn in, and every day I find myself getting emotional at times because I said in my reflection video, it's way bigger than me. I think about my ancestors. I think about all that they've endured. I could only imagine what they've gone through, you know, being stripped away from their identity and everything that they've known. And basically what they tried to stop us from coming here in Africa did not work on me. It did not work on the other 523 people that got their citizenship and returned home. So I feel blessed, I feel empowered, I feel like all the things. I'm on a high right now, and I think that now that this opportunity has presented itself for me and for everyone else in the diaspora, it's just like so much more blessings is to come. That's exactly how I feel.
I first came to Ghana in December 2019 and fell in love with the place. The Holy Spirit was strong on me. I left here crying because I knew I'd found something special. I found a culture, a people who praise God first, the ancestors, respect for the ancestors second, respect for the elders, which is anybody older than you, respect for yourself and everybody else. This is a country where I found African people, black people who genuinely try to live in peace, practice peace as a way of life. And this is a blessing to bring us full circle here. This is true Pan-Africanism. God bless Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. God bless Marcus Garvey. God bless Malcolm X and all the rest of the brothers that came before us that made this day possible. For me, the descendant of slaves, my great-great-grandfather was born in Texas in the 1850s, and on my mother's side in Alabama in the 1850s. And here I am today, proudly about to become a Ghanaian citizen, reunited with my African family, reunited with my black family, reunited with the continent that birthed us all, the motherland. This is an honor, a privilege. I don't even deserve it, but I'm so grateful and happy to be here.
When I went to Ghana, that was the first time I felt like just a black man.
Yeah.
I'm not a black man who's a threat. I'm not a black man that is ghetto because he's wearing a do-rag.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not a black man that's uneducated.
Yep.
I'm not a black man that's trying to rob you.
Yep.
I'm just a black man.
Yeah.
That was the first time in my life that I literally walked outside in society and I felt no pressure to try and conform to what I think people's perceptions of me are.
Right.
And I think we carry that weight so often
crazy
that we don't realize how heavy it is until we don't have to carry it anymore, bro.
When I'm in Ghana and I get stopped by the police, guess what I get? I get a warning, I get a ticket. I've never, since I've been over there, saw on the news or nothing that somebody got pulled over by the police and got shot. America's my home, but Africa is my homeland. When you land in Africa, you immediately feel good. It's the place I get to walk around and I'm good all the time because the majority of the people look just like me everywhere I go. And that's a warm feeling, man. But I think what people don't understand is how rich of a continent Africa really is.
I was so proud to be a Black American, right? I didn't feel the need to say African American. I felt exactly how they did. I'd been to several countries in Africa and felt like, I was in, I went to Congo, I went to Djibouti, Rwanda, Nairobi, Kenya, South Africa. I was been in a lot of those places, and I'm going, hey, Black American, I'm proud. We've accomplished a great deal. Do they really feel like we're connected? But until I went to Ghana, everything changed. Like what happened was I found out, I got roots in Ghana. That's my lineage. But I'm not one of those people who just like is going to get on the bandwagon. I'm back in Mother Africa and all this type of stuff. When I learned about Ghana and when I went back there, it felt different from every place else because I felt like, oh shoot, when I landed in Ghana and I looked around, I'm like, yo, if you put a Nike shirt on this cat right there, he looks like he could be walking right on Ventura. And I clearly saw where the slaves came from because I'm going, these look exactly like American black people right now. And in Benin and places like that. Well, when I'm in Eritrea and places like that, I stick out like a sore thumb. He's like, yeah, hey, where's this big black American? Oh, he's right there. And I would stand out like a sore thumb. And you realize that's where they got these big old strapping black folks from. And to know that we weren't slaves, man. We were absolutely talented farmers and technical people, like, because that was the industry in Africa. You had to know how to farm. They kidnapped successful working people to build the country. Yeah. But psychologically, slaves is the term. I can never look at myself the same.
Our king. As you are now traditionally clothed, and now you are home, we can identify you by your cloth as one of us. And more importantly, having been installed as occupant by your Tenebo to the third. Mike, say points now Michael says, thank you very much for the over for opportunity.
I agree with every single thing that all of these brothers and sisters have said about their experience with Ghana. It is a beautiful country. It is something that you just have to experience for yourself. I strongly urge everybody to go to Ghana. It is just beyond description. And like Steve Harvey said, there are so much riches and resources in Ghana. The way you feel when you get there, like one of the other brothers said, when you get there and you're in that country, you do not feel like you have to worry about anything as it relates to you as a black person, like we have to do in North America and other parts of the world where, it's dominated by the folks. There's so much to worry about. If you're a mother and you have a son that's black or a daughter that's black, you've got the anxiety of what happens when they leave the house. Are they going to come home in one piece? What happens if the police are called on them? What happens if they're discriminated in their workplace? So much that we have to worry about living in our black skin in the West. But in Ghana and in other countries in Africa, not a care in the world. Everybody looks the same. Everybody loves each other. And like the other brother said, it's about peace. We're addicted to peace. We don't want a war with people. We don't want to fight with people. We just want to live and live well. So kudos to all of you that got your citizenship. I wish you nothing but love and light and success. And I'm going to say in Chui Akwaba. And that means welcome. Oh, and to the folks, you've been telling us, go back to where we came from, go back to Africa. Well, we're going.
The place of the diaspora, the status of people in the diaspora, of the African diaspora, is intimately linked with what happens on the continent. And Africa strong and performing transforms your position and your status here in Europe. But an Africa which continues to live the narrative of poverty, hungry children, people going across the Sahara, going in rickety boats and dying in Lampedusa to get to Europe. That Africa is not a narrative that is going to help you over here. So I think between you and us, our main task is the transformation of the continent. And why do I say so? Just one simple example. The Chinese diaspora is supposed to be some 60 million people. And in the table of states, they constitute the 25th country in the world. They're saying that of the 52 billion foreign investment that went into China in the 80s and 90s that transformed China into what it is today, the manufacturing hub of the world, 50% of that, 26%, came from the Chinese overseas community. And that development of China that has taken place has changed the status and the position of Chinese all over the world. So I want you to take those statistics very seriously, because that is the transformative connection that we want to make with the African diaspora. How to implicate it in the development of the continent. Once we change the narrative about Africa, and we can only do it ourselves, we have to get away from the idea that there's some Father Christmas somewhere who's going to come and develop our continent for us. There is no such Father Christmas. There's just us who are going to be able to develop our continent. So, once that mentality is our mentality, that we have to do it ourselves, then our relations with other people become that much more structured and punctilious, if you like. Our relations with France, our relations with Europe. Our relations with Europe is a natural one. You look at the geography of the world, Africa and Europe are natural partners. There's just this small strip of water, the Mediterranean, that separates the two of us. So when you look at that, and you look also at the history that has gone on between Africa and Europe, that is a natural relationship and a natural alliance, but a relationship that has to be different from the relationship that we've had up to now. Why do I say so? That relationship has enriched Europe, but has not enriched Africa. So we need to change that dynamic. And we can only do it by ourselves taking the correct measures for our
Brothers and sisters, I'm sharing this video from Benin, and I'm very, very happy because the Republic of Benin, under its government being led by Patrice Tola, is now offering citizenship to every African diaspora who wants to move back home. Now, this is a very good move, and if this legislation goes through and it goes successful, we are going to see our brothers who have suffered oppression coming back to the motherland. Now, I've been advocating for this, and I've been sharing videos of Ibrahim Traore, the president of Uganda, and so many others who are willing to welcome back the African diaspora who wants to come and invest or stay in Africa. Now, it is news, and still we are getting to know whatever is really happening with the government of Benin. Then I'll be updating you on whatever requirements are needed and how one can acquire the citizenship of Benin on arrival. Now, there have been so many brothers and sisters asking about coming to Africa, and I've been sharing videos of Burkina Faso and so many others, and they were crying out on whatever happened in Ghana, and those who went to Ghana have actually had a bad experience with Africa. Now, whatever happened with Ghana, I've been following with my close friend who works with the government, and he told me that the government was overwhelmed by the number of African diaspora who are coming back. and there were no yet legislations that were passed to protect them. And the president by then, Akufo-Nana, was actually so reluctant, and in this way, so many of them ended up not being directed well, because we have those village mentalities of people thinking that any African diaspora who comes back to Africa, or from the US, UK, Canada, Germany, Spain, they have money and they really want to get some from them. So in this case, so many got lost. But I promise you, if everything is going to be fine with Benin, with the likes of Burkina Faso, with the likes of Uganda and so many other countries in Africa, we are going to see majority of Black Americans, African diasporans moving back to Africa. So it is really good to see this movement happening. It is really good to see things are happening, and our own brothers yet to come back. It is good to see, because this is going to reconnect them with their culture. It is going to reconnect them with their motherland and their ancestors' roots. So in this case, we are going to see so many children of Africa who were lost through slavery, who have been facing oppression, who have been facing hard times, hard economic times, who have been facing economic disparities, coming back to live in Africa or invest the little they have in Africa. So this should actually be a good move. And it is my prayer that every African president adopts this, that they call back and have legislations that will help to protect their lands, to protect their properties, and all other stuff that they will get when in Africa. Others were asking, is it really possible to invest in Africa? Of course, yes. I've seen people who have come to Africa. They live in Africa happily. They have companies. They do farming. They do so many other things. So it is really, really possible to come and invest. It is possible to come and stay. As much as you don't have crime, crime history and all that stuff, because the government might want to fear, because they may see you are coming to influence the motherland with bad habits and all that stuff. But if at all you're disciplined and everything is fine, Africa is the place to be right now, because we see Ibrahim Traore, the president of Burkina Faso, has been advocating for this for the longest time. He has been saying that it is time the children of Africa to come back home, to run away from the oppression that is happening on the other side of the world. We've seen Dr. Rikan advocating for the same thing. We have seen Pilo Lumumba advocating for the same thing. We've seen Julius Malema saying Africa should remain for black people. Like Africa should remain for Africans, and not the French people, not the British people, not the Americans who have dominated every part of this country, who have invested everywhere, in that black people cannot have a chance to do their own businesses at peace, because they see them as competitors in their own land. So this is why we say, and we are seeing so many governments trying to do this. They are trying actually to influence the way things will work out. They are trying to call back the children of Africa. Now, this is the best timing I've ever seen, because according to how things are going on, and the Trump situation in the US, and how things have been crazy in the UK, we've seen so many black people in the UK crying out for the continued systematic racism. You can see it happening in football, in sports, everywhere. So when our leaders come to their senses and say, okay, this is the time, we invite you back home. We invite you, even if you have the little that you should be having, to come and live in Africa or to invest in Africa. This is the real time. This is the real time, and it is so good timing, because this is to encourage investments in Africa. It's to encourage black folks to come and invest in their own land, and to make sure that things work out well, and nothing is left at chance for losses. So when we see these things happening, it only help to create the awareness that there is the motherland, and the people of Africa are welcomed in their own motherland, that this is where they came from. And if at all, this is where their spirits should rest after they are dead. So when we see this happening, it's not a coincidence. When we see this happening, it happens because the time is right. You remember we had some good leaders, and I'll talk someone like Pilo Lumumba, not Patrice Lumumba of DRC Congo, when he was calling out and making out calls that Africa should unite and call out everyone who is not in Africa to come back and build their own continent. When the Queen of Ethiopia was calling out on black Americans to come back and invest in Ethiopia and to live in Ethiopia, they knew whatever they were doing. They knew that there is strength in unity. And when we survive and thrive in division, that's when we've been ruled by ruthless Western powers for the longest time. This is when we see the oppression happening to our own brothers and sisters in the diaspora without anyone talking about whatever is happening. Now, anyone who is watching this video and is very interested in coming back home, is very interested in coming back to invest in the motherland, it's very possible. Sometimes you have to take the risk of going to unknown places, or to the least known places, or to environments which are very strange to you, or you are not well like you are not well adapted to them. I know many of our brothers and sisters fear coming because they see they are going to lose their lives, they are going to lose their cultures and all that. One thing, and this is actually the truth, and maybe someone might hate me because of saying this. The culture that most of our brothers and sisters have in the US is not their culture. And the US is a largely cosmopolitan country where we have so many people from many other countries. And for this case, many African diaspora, or many American blacks, many black folks who are living in the UK, in Germany and Canada, have ended up having a culture which is not theirs. They are learning a history which is not theirs. That most of them are talking or speaking French, Spanish, and all these other languages which are not theirs. Their languages are in Africa, their culture is in Africa, and they need to reconnect back with the motherland and learn all this stuff. Because when we say that Africa should unite and have one single leader who will take care of the whole continent, and have one system of government that is going to take care of the whole continent, that we communicate and talk the language of unity, that we unite under one leadership, under one currency, it's very possible. It's just the fact that we are still living in denial, like this unity cannot happen. And this is why we still get ourselves into the same mess that someone like Patrice Lumumba, Martin Luther King, and many others like Malcolm X wanted us to get out. It was their best of their knowledge that if black people, if Africa could unite with the Caribbean countries, unite with all black folks around the world, that we are going to be strong and we are going to be undisputed. No one is going to loot or exploit us anymore. Even if our own brothers who live in the US, UK, and all these Western countries, they won't be oppressed as much because we will be united. And when we speak in unity, something big happens. We will be speaking with some kind of force. But right now, we are so much we are so much divided in that everyone is for themselves and God is for us all. So that's very strange. I'm saying once and once and once again that we should unite. And to those who are interested to coming to the motherland, Benin is calling, Burkina Faso is calling, Niger is calling, Eastern Africa, the whole of Eastern Africa has been welcoming the Black Americans and Africa diaspora for the longest time. It is just we did not have the awareness that Our brothers did not know whatever is happening on the other side of the world. But this is the time to unite. This is the time to call out on all brothers and sisters to come back and invest and to live in Africa. Thank you so much for having taken your time to watch this video. I promise to update you on whatever is happening in Benin and whatever legislations will be put in place to make sure that every African diaspora who comes home is safe and their properties are safe and their land and all that stuff, they are not exploited or extorted by anyone. So thank you so much for having taken your time to watch this video. I appreciate so much. Keep on watching this channel for more updates on whatever is happening in Africa and for countries calling out on African diaspora to come back home. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.